For me, success is to accomplish things that money can't buy. When I was 21 years old, I decided now I need to do my own thing. So I moved to a Brazilian favela, to a Brazilian slum, and I say, okay, now I'm gonna start from the scratch to being comfortable in being uncomfortable. I think this is a skill that everyone should learn. I follow the rules. First, your personal health. Second, family, and third, the work.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I just have a favor to ask before we begin. If you've been enjoying these conversations and want more stories that redefine success, please do us a massive favor and hit the subscribe button over on our YouTube channel. It literally takes 2 seconds to do and is completely free. It's a small gesture, but it makes a massive difference for us as it really helps us to grow the show. And with that, let's get into the episode. All right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast, and thanks for tuning in once again. Today on the show, I'm really looking forward to this one because we're joined by Josef Rubin, who is a Brazilian entrepreneur. He's a mentor, he's an investor, he's built a university, which I'm so fascinated to talk about. And yeah, really excited to have him on the show.
Yeah, I had the privilege to meet Joseph at Harvard Business School. I studied with him and know a little bit about you. And this is a great opportunity to understand a bit more and share your journey. Thank you, Joseph, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dylan, Jen, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
So, Joseph, this podcast is all about success. And so we need to start with a very fundamental question. And that is, what does success actually mean to you?
For me, success is to accomplish things that money can't buy. So money can't buy a happy life. Money can't buy a jiu-jitsu black belt. Money can't buy, things that you have to put your effort, your sweat, your blood to conquer. These are the things I consider a success.
That's a nice one.
And right now, what are those things, that you feel like money can't buy? What are you putting your effort into?
I have a list that I call 101 things to do before I die.
Wow.
So it's that there I have a lot of things, personal things about my family. So to see my kids being humble and great people in life, this is something money can't buy. So I have my 101 things to do before I die. I have accomplished 37
Oh,
by
nice.
now.
Wow.
So I have a lot of things in my list that I consider a success.
Long way to go. Yeah.
And Joseph, for us to understand the man who we're talking to today, we always like to go back to the very beginning. Can you take us through your early life, your upbringing, and how you think your parents and that kind of early period of your life shaped who you become?
Okay, perfect. I'm Brazilian, Jewish in Brazil. My dad and my mom, my grandparents came from the Second World War to Brazil.
Oh, wow.
With nothing on the hands. My grandmother was pregnant and they started their life from the scratch in Brazil. So my dad's a salesman. We had a fair life, not rich, not poor, but a good life. And when I was 21 years old, I decided, hey, my family came from the scratch. I have already graduated from university. Now I need to do my own thing. So I moved to a Brazilian favela, the slums, to a Brazilian slum, and I say, okay, now I'm gonna start from the scratch as my family. It was something very strong inside me. My dad didn't like the idea, so he spent 1 year without talking to me. And I started from the scratch as a salesman in a shopping center in a mall in Brazil, and then starting my career. After that, I went as a trainee of a big consultancy firm, and I started to grow my career. So I passed 2 years living in the Brazilian slum. It was a great time, actually. When I moved, I had only my mattress on the floor and a TV. And then I conquered everything from the scratch. So it's something I'm really proud of. And after that, I started to work in multinational companies, in big firms, until with more or less 25 years old, I've been sent to Colombia to open the company of the Brazil, a very big Brazilian cosmetics firms in Colombia. I lived 3 years in Bogota. It was a very nice time that I had. For me, it was an entrepreneurship MBA, but with other people money. And I learned a lot over there. And with 28 years old, I came back to Brazil to open the company I founded.
Amazing. You went so fast with your story, and we really like to unpack that a little bit more. Yeah.
Joseph, I want to go to that, period where you moved yourself into the favela. What do you think were some of the most important lessons that taught you? Like going away from, this safe and comfortable life and then leaving that all behind to go into, quite a tough situation.
Yeah, I believe two main lessons. The first, learn how to sell is very important. So what did I sold in the beginning? Victoria's Secrets. So I take the Victoria's Secrets products to sell to the neighbors, to sell to the people, and to sell is something very good. I think everyone should learn. I am a very introverted person. Doesn't look, but I am. I was very ashamed to talk to people, to sell, but I didn't have any other options. So I learned it. So the selling told me how to talk with people, how to look extrovert, even though I am an introvert person. So selling is something that even as an entrepreneur, I think we're selling all the time. So it changed my life to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
And the second one, to being comfortable in being uncomfortable. I think this is a skill that everyone should learn. Even last year, after sold my company for some $1 million, a lot of money, I've been to, after selling the company, to Thailand to spend 1 year fighting Muay Thai, living in the camps with no luxury. So it's something I really like to come back to the roots and being comfortable and being uncomfortable.
Yeah. So do you think this is a really important thing? I mean, I mean, our kids, like for example, Dylan, right, is such a good kid, but they never came from where we came from. The background, that desperation, the fire in the belly. Do you think how important to have that hunger, like to become an entrepreneur?
I think it's very important. I have 4 kids too, and this is also something that crossed my mind all the time. Like they're not gonna use buses to go to places. They can use Uber, different than me. They gonna have a easier life. So how do I teach them to be humble, hunger? They have hunger. For me, everything you can teach to someone, everything. I have an education company, so I think you can learn everything. But if you have hunger, if you don't have hunger, this I can teach you. So I think something I studied a lot about education, how to develop people, how to develop resilience in people. And I think the main thing that can help a little bit is the sports. So my daughters and my kids can choose the sport they want, even though they do a sport. So they cannot choose if they gonna do a sport or no. They can choose what sports they want to do. So because the sports teach a lot how to be a teamwork player, how to deal with losses, how to work hard and train for something you really want. So I don't have the answer yet. I'm trying to find the answer as well as Dylan, but I
Yeah.
think sports help a lot in this answer.
Yeah.
And Joseph, I want to ask you a question. Like, it seems it's a lot to do with mindset, right? Because you spoke about you sold your company millions of dollars but then you go and put yourself, in the jungles of Thailand to, make yourself uncomfortable and really train that mindset. Do you think that is the most important point, like having mindset, like a strong
I think
mindset?
I have a good story. I told you I started my life in the Brazilian slum and everything else. Then I became an executive for big companies. I had some good money. When I decided to open my own company, I decided I need to work 16 hours a day for the company to work. So I'm gonna put myself in an uncomfortable situation again. So I moved to a house with six other people. I lived in their basement. I didn't have window in my room. So it was a place I didn't want to be comfortable in the house. I want to go there to the office to work and make the business work. So this is something I strongly believe that if you want something very hard in your life, you need to put yourself in a situation that this is your main priority and work for it. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe you need to move from unbalance to unbalance without losing balance. So you can't lose balance, but move from unbalance to unbalance. So I think this is the challenge.
And Joseph, you mentioned there, that transition from your more corporate career into starting your own business. I'd love to know, you were on such a good salary. What was the vision that you saw that made you say, I'm going to leave this all behind and start my own?
Okay, so I didn't thought to be an entrepreneur. I didn't have this inside of me. There are some people that they are born to be entrepreneurs. I'm not one of these guys. But when I lived in Colombia to open this company's operations, I lived for 3 years. And when I came back to Brazil once in 6 months for the company to visit the Brazilian company. And when I come back once, two friends call me to a coffee and they asked me, Joseph, from everything you learn in your university, in your MBA, what are you really most proud of you learned of everything you became? And I say, hey, nothing. What I'm proud of, I learned by working, by making mistakes, by working my ass off. So they told, so that's why I'm asking you, why don't we open a school that teach everything we should learn, but we didn't. A school that can teach public speaking, emotional intelligence, leadership, financial education. We don't learn financial education in the schools in Brazil. So I became in love with this idea to change the Brazilian education, to open this school. Then I came back to Colombia. I couldn't think in anything else. Then I called them and I say, hey, if you quit your jobs, I could quit mine as well, and we open this school. So they are crazy with me, and we decided to open this school in Brazil from the scratch.
That's fascinating. And what do you think most traditional education institutes do wrong? Because it seems like it's a failure of, the larger system.
Yes. I think there are three big mistakes that traditional education do wrong, at least in Brazil. First, content. We learn a lot of content in our lives to use maybe a little bit of it. So we learn about the Bhaskara formula, we learn about plants, we learn about things 99% of the people will never use in their lives. This is the first problem, content. But we don't learn about public communication. We don't learn about emotional intelligence. We don't learn about financial education, leadership, sales. Everyone should learn about this independently of their profession. The second big problem, I believe, is their methodology. Sometimes you go to school, we had this at Harvard. Sometimes the teacher is amazing. They do jokes, they know how to gather people's attentions. But most of the time, they don't know how to do it. In Brazilian education, this happens 20 times more than usual. So every school should have a methodology so they don't depend of the teacher to have a good class, to have people's engagement in the class. And third, teachers that don't live what they are teaching. When I did my university in Brazil, I had an entrepreneurship class with a teacher that had never opened a company in his life.
Yeah.
So how can he teach me about entrepreneurs if he don't know how to open he didn't live there? So these three things we transformed as the three big pillars of Conquer. Conquer is the company I founded. First, content direct to the point. We focus on life skills that will be used in any profession. Second, we had developed our own methodology based on neuroscience, so we can make sure that people are engaged in class. People don't need to drink coffee to watch a class. And third, teachers that live what they are teaching. So today in Conquer, we have more than 300 different teachers, and they are business professionals. For example, a CMO of big companies that teach marketing at Conquer. A big leader teach leadership in my school. So teachers that live what they are teaching.
Yeah. So when did you realize, Joseph, there's a real gap? Did you realize when you're working, because you studied, you done your masters, etc. But then when you're going to work, then you realize there's a huge gap. Is that right?
Yes, this happened when a guy that worked with me, he was a pair of me. We are both analysts, and technically, I was much better than him. I was working in finance. Technically, I was better than him, but when promotion as coordinator appeared, he got promoted, and not me. And then I got really mad and started to understand what happened. And at the end of the day, he had a better communication. He knew how to sell himself better than me. And he had better relationships than me. So I started to notice it's not only the technical thing that is important. There's other skills that is important to any person in any career. So this is when I started to realize. And after moved to Colombia to open an operation from the scratch, open stores and everything else, I could realize that as a leader, that the best people is not necessarily the best technical people, but the one that have the better mindset, better behaviors, and better soft skills. So this was something very strong of me. And when these friends came, asked me for a coffee, and did this provocation to me, I say, yes, that's it. Brazil needs a company, a school that teaches this.
Yeah, yeah.
And Joseph, you scaled from one school in Curitiba to now teaching millions of students. I want to know what were
6 million students.
Wow, that's incredible. What were the key kind of milestones or decisions that you made to create that scale?
First of all, I learned the name of it when I was in Harvard, but I did it without knowing the name. We created a very good management system, so we don't lose quality when we scale. So in our classes, after every class, the students evaluate the class in a cell phone like this, as you do in a Uber, 1 to 5 stars, and why that. So I created this, and so every teacher that got 95% or above, it's okay. It's in our standards. Between 90 and 95, we're gonna give this teacher the feedbacks of what he or she should improve. And below 90%, we will train the teacher again in the methodology, or we're gonna replace the teacher. So this is a management system. And now I have 300 teachers. There's classes going on every place in Brazil and outside Brazil, but I have quality when I scale. I think this is one of the main things we did. So we grow because in education, brand is reputation and reputation is quality. If you don't have quality in education, you're not going to grow, you're not going to scale, people will not recommend you. So we grew with a lot of quality, with people recommending us, with a lot of mouth to mouth. And with that, we created a very strong brand in Brazil. And this is, I think, the main reason we scaled the quality.
Yeah, Joseph, I want to go a little bit back, and yeah, when your friends came to you with this idea, and you really liked the idea, but then what was the next step? How did you kick this off? I mean, did you start small, or what was the initial steps?
The initial steps was talking with my family, and they called me crazy that I chose and quit the job to open a school. They told me, you're even not from education. How gonna open school? This is crazy. It doesn't make sense. This was the first step, but I really trusted. I felt a bigger thing. I don't know how to explain, but I was in love with this. Was a big passion, something very strong inside of me. So we opened a school. We opened in a 40 square meters room in a business building in Brazil. We started with $5,000 investment, the school. So we did everything with a lot of passion. I was the first teacher in the school, obviously. My other partner was the first salesman, and we did everything alone. And we start to grow, bootstrap, always reinvesting what we did. So we in the 10 years. This year we're gonna complete 10 years. We
Wow.
always had cash generation. We never needed to have investor money to grow or debt or something like that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, you always had a bigger vision. Like you had, what you're doing now, like after 10 years, what you achieved. Were you thinking initially when you're starting the business?
No. I was thinking big but acting small. I was thinking I want to change Brazilian education. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're working on something, you can only see the next step. Imagine a stair. You only see the next step or maximum the two next steps. I didn't have the vision. I never imagined in my best thoughts to have 6 million students and to really be one of the most famous Brazilian education brands. So I could only see the two next steps, then the two next steps, then the two next steps. Okay, dream big but act small. This is what I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. So what were the main growth challenges you had?
Everything was a challenge because every day was day one for me as entrepreneur. So every day new challenges. The first one was to get the first students because I went to Silicon Valley. I developed a very nice methodology of education. We got this 40 square meters room, but we did a very nice room, well decorated. And we opened the door, and how will the first student come in? It's not gonna work. So I was a little desperate because I quit my job and I didn't have salary anymore. So I needed to get the first students. How's this gonna work? A good product doesn't sell itself. A good product still needs sales skills and marketing skills to bring. So I tried everything you can imagine. I tried radio, I tried social media, I tried to go to my neighbor's door talking about the school. Nothing worked. I tried to dress myself and asked as an astronaut to give flyers to people on the street. I have pictures of this, but it didn't work. People even got the flyer back, and it wasn't working. So we had the idea. So where are the people that are our customers? They are in LinkedIn because they work in companies and they are in LinkedIn. So we
LinkedIn.
decided to message people in LinkedIn, inviting them for a free class.
Okay.
So we messaged 10,000 people. Of this was a very big job to change everyone's name, inviting to a class and everything else. And of these 10,000 people, 400 came for our free classes.
Wow.
Wow.
And of these 400, 36 were our first students.
Wow.
And then the course was really good. We started to have mouth to mouth and started to grow after that. So this, if you ask me, what is the biggest challenge you have in this 10 years of the company, was that to have the first students.
And Joseph, I want to know, for a lot of training institutions, even the university I went to, COVID was a massive challenge because basically like that overnight, that had to go from face
Yes,
to face to online. I want you to take us through that journey and how you responded to that.
that's a great question, because the first biggest challenge in my life was the first student. The second was COVID. So you answered to the point. For us, it was very hard, because how do you grow a company? First, you invest, and after you grow. If you know something different, teach me, please, because I really want to know. Even Harvard couldn't teach me something different than that. So I was growing like crazy. I believe that first is the rich company and poor entrepreneur, so you can have a rich company and rich entrepreneur after that. So I had 13 physical schools in Brazil before in the pandemics, but I was investing the profit of them to open 20 new schools at the same time. So when the pandemic hit, I had only 3 months of cash flow. I had a very big problem, and I couldn't do anything to that because the schools are closed. So for us, was a very, very big challenge. So I made a Zoom call with the team, everyone in their houses, and I say, okay, guys, so we need to survive. And in order to survive, we need to open online courses. Who here know how to edit videos? And a girl from the HR said, I know, okay, now you're not working in HR anymore, you are a video editor. So I created squads in the team, changed everything, and we launched online courses. And since our brand was very strong in Brazil, because of the quality in the physical schools, people went crazy when we opened the online courses, because the online courses were cheaper than the physical courses. So we started to grow a lot, and after that we learned how to do digital marketing, we learned how to do online, and we started to grow a lot. In 1 year, we are bigger in the online courses than with the 13 physical schools. So we decided to close the 13 schools and follow only on the as an ed tech with the online courses.
Are you still doing both or just doing online purely?
No, we until I sold the company, we were only online. We were 10 times bigger than when the pandemics hit, only with the online. And now the new owners, they are opening the physical schools again as well. So they are
Wow.
taking the models we had before.
Yeah. Mm.
They created a franchise with that, and now we have 6 schools, physical schools. We have the online. We have 6 physical schools, and they plan to open 120 schools in the next 3 years.
Amazing, amazing. So you mentioned like finding student was difficult, but what about finding teachers?
This was never a problem to us. Why? Because people that have some success level, they like to share their knowledge,
Hmm.
but they don't want to be in an academic institution because there are so many rules. They need to
Mm.
have a PhD. I didn't want
Yeah,
to have PhDs teaching. I want to have people that are in the business. So I always use LinkedIn to
yeah,
invite people, and it works as a funnel. I invite 100 person that are CMOs, for example. 100 CMOs, 30 will respond me, 10 will talk to me in a meeting, and 2 will become teachers. So
nice.
we always did that and always worked. Today we don't need anymore because everyone wants to be a teacher, because it's a
Yeah,
very good thing for their resumes to
Yeah.
be a teacher in Conquer. The brand is very famous. So now we have a big queue of people wanting to be teachers. But at the beginning, we used LinkedIn and as a
yeah,
funnel.
yeah.
And I want to go to that acquisition you were talking about when you sold to Grupo Wiser. What was what was the challenge and also the advantage that you had of partnering with them?
They were a strategic partner, and we received a lot of offers because we knew how to create a brand, a sexy brand, big result. We innovated in the Brazilian education, so we have always been approached of some different uh, venture private equity funds or bigger education brands. And what we tried to do was deal with someone that could do what we say 1 + 1 = 100.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
smart money was the
yeah.
smart money that really made a difference. They was one of the three biggest education companies in Brazil, and they were very good about selling, marketing, and they really could expand our business. So first we sold 15% of the business in 2021, and then with them we multiplied the business by three with their smart money. And in 2024 they made us an offer of buying 100%, and we decided to sold.
That's amazing. So you mentioned earlier you never been an entrepreneur until you start this school, and you said that you can learn to be an entrepreneur. Throughout this journey, what were the key learnings that to become an entrepreneur?
First of all, I really recommend to learn with other people's money. Then the first. In Brazil now there's a movement, a big movement that some people on social media do that say don't work for other people, open your business. And I don't believe this. I think you should learn work for other people for 10 years and then work your business because you can learn with other people's money. So I think this is something very important. And if I say three main things that made my journey as entrepreneur different, was the first one being good with people. There's this Simon Sinek quote that says, "You don't build a business, you develop people, and then people develop the business." So I think to being good with people is something that you is a must for an entrepreneur. And I learned this. I was not good with people when I started, but I learned by mistakes. I learned by doing how to be good, a good leader. The second one is to know how to sell. This is important. If I invited a new teacher to have classes in my school, I was selling to him. Uh, Everything is a sell. To have partners, to have clients, to have providers, you need to sell. So I think sell is very important. And the third one, to know about management, so you never lose quality. Quality is something that can't be negotiable. So independent what area do you do, you need to be consistent and you need to have quality.
And Joseph, you were a teacher and a leader, and then you decided to actually go back to school yourself and go to do Harvard OPM. I want to know, firstly, what triggered that, and then what was your biggest takeaway from Harvard?
For me was fantastic experience, and I say some people that may have enjoyed Harvard, but for me it was two times more because first I learned as an education company how to do education methodology, how Harvard organized everything. I was always writing. I need to reproduce this in my school. So I did a very nice market research with 100 years old methodology that Harvard have. And the second one as a business owner. I learned a lot. In the first year, for me was perfect because in the first year, I learned how to improve the operations and to be more profitable and to make things work without me and get out of the operations and be more strategic leader. In the second year, I was negotiating the sale of the company, the terms and everything else. And we had classes about it, negotiation class. We learned about cases of people selling the company, what worked well, what not worked well. So for me, it was perfect because I was living it. Then in the third year, I was suffering because I sold my baby. I
Yeah,
have the conquer symbol tattooed in my
yeah.
cough. So I was not Joseph of Conquer anymore. I lose my identity. So what I gonna do? And in the third year, we talked a lot about legacy. I could talk with other students, of people, other people that sold their business as well and went through something very close to what I did. So for me, it was perfect. I couldn't predict it, but for me, the 3 years were something that worked very well to me.
So I think the Harvard program just designed for you, Joseph. Pretty
I
much.
believe the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do anything like after going through this three experience, whether it's business or work? Have you actually changed, and have you done anything differently?
A lot, a lot. I changed a lot in Harvard as a leader, my mindset. Now, after sold the company, I open a venture that I invest in other people's, other entrepreneurs' initiatives, and everything that with Harvard learnings. So I changed a lot.
Yeah. And then Joseph, you went from education into a consumer product, and you started ZTX Labs. I want to know what was the story behind that?
When I went to Harvard in the first day of class, I got the imposter syndrome. I went, oh my
all
God.
all of us got
All
that.
of
Like
us.
not just you.
I am in Harvard. I am not that smart. I never been a smart guy. I am not a native language speaker. So what I'm gonna do? So I was thinking, I went to a Walgreens pharmacy, and they had a lot of shots that for your brain, so you have brain power and things like that. So I drink that shot and I loved it. Americans, no, Americans have products
Yeah.
for everything, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was very nice. So my wife worked for 20 years as a P&D of a
All right.
big company in Brazil. So I bring this product to her and I say, "Hey, look, this is very good," and she developed a formula the
Wow.
same as the American one. So it's okay. Since we have the formula, let's open the brand. So we opened the brand, and 10 months after that, we received an offer to buy the company as well. And this was my second exit. We sold the second company to another consumer products company in Brazil
Amazing, amazing story.
And in 10 months, how do you
in
scale
10 months.
a brand that quickly to get recognition where someone
Uh,
wants to acquire you like that?
I was very good in digital marketing because I learned at Conquer how to do digital marketing. So the company got famous and viral in the digital world, and this is how we called education attention for the brand that bought us,
Yeah,
approached and bought us.
yeah. You mentioned earlier you were very introvert, but for an introvert person to become I would say, gun salesman, like really, really good salesman, what were the, like, steps that you taken? Going out, obviously going outside your comfort zone, which is that's what you've been doing every day.
Yes. Yes. For example, I was very introvert, and when I was trying to find my first job, I did a mediocre job in the interviews because I was ashamed. I couldn't talk about myself. So what I did, I didn't have Conquer school to teach me how to speak in that time. So I scheduled 100 interviews in 1 month in Brazil. So I got the bus, go to one side to another side of the city, doing interviews in places I didn't want to work, in things you can't even imagine. But when I was in the 50 interview, I already knew what they're gonna ask, how's gonna be, how's not gonna be, and I was comfortable making the interviews. So I could enter in a job I really wanted to work. So I developed by putting myself to a very uncomfortable place until it got comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing, right? Like, do you see that's the best way to learn? Like, if you don't really know anything, you should continue to do those stuff rather than things that you're good at.
I think first of all is the mindset that you can learn everything. If you have hunger, you can learn everything. So since the moment you know you can learn everything, if it's something in your life that is stopping you to grow, as in my case, I couldn't get a job because I couldn't speak in public. I was too introvert. So if it's something holding you back, you need to work a lot to develop it.
Mm. Yeah, the really good advice. Yeah.
And then Joseph, as a two-time exited founder, what did you do after that? What were your sights set on?
Now I open this venture so I can invest. I feel uh, that I know how to get a business that if with a certain size and to help them to grow until a certain size. So I did this once, twice, three, 10 times already in other companies we invested. So now I am growing this fund to with my own money, of course, to invest in companies and to sell them after 3, 4, 5 years.
And
But
what's
with
your
a very
investment thesis?
yeah, my investment thesis, smart money. So I don't like to have more than 10 invested companies at the same time because I want to be very close to them and help them. And now I can't invest in education business because I have my non-compete. So I invest in a lot in technology and AI business in Brazil. And mainly that they have a good product, but they need marketing and sales to scale. Because I'm very good in marketing and sales. So if I get a company that already have the product market fit, have a very good product, the consumers love it, but the owner is not too good in marketing or in sales, this is a good company for me to invest.
Yeah. So, Joseph, if someone's starting a business and thinking of maybe build a business and eventually want to sell it, what's the advice that you would give?
I think there's a lot of people that build business thinking to sell. So I'm not making and building something to last, but to sell. And will do some things poorly, will not have too many quality. I'll go to another side. And my advice is build a business to last. If you build a business to last, it will have value for an investor or for a buyer. If you build a business not to last, will not. How do people and investors do a valuation of a company? They try to put in a math how will be the cash flow generation of this company to the next 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So if you have a business to build, to last, it's gonna have value. If it's a business not so good, it's not gonna have value.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Joseph, in all those investments that you've made, what are some of the key failures that those entrepreneurs are doing that is stopping them from scaling?
I think execution. At Harvard, we learned that execution is 7 times more important than strategy because it's during the
Absolutely.
execution that you adjust your strategy. The biggest mistake I think is people that developed a very nice strategy, intelligent strategy, make a 3-year plan, but they got too fixed to it and they don't have adaptability to change the strategy if they need.
Mm. Mm. So, fail fast, right? That's the way to do it.
Fail fast, change your strategy faster, be open, listen to the customer. Every strategy should start with the customer. We learned this at Harvard as well. So
Yeah.
be very close to the customer, be very close to the sales team people because they know what's going well and what's not going well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Joseph, you went on to co-author a book, Ovai Ovoa, and it's trying to
Yes.
teach principles of entrepreneurship. Is there one or two of core principles that you can share with our listeners from that book?
Yes, this was a very big book. We got between the three main books sold in Brazil for a quite good time. Was a bestseller in Brazil.
Wow.
Was a very nice experience. In a very nice moment, just after I sold the company, so I could launch my book and give these principles to people. And I can talk about some principles. First one of the principles we teach in the book is to have a good time management. Uh, uh, some people say everyone have the same 24 hours. I don't believe this. People have different histories, different challenges. We don't have the same 24 hours.
Yep.
But if we can have a better time management, you will be better than yourself. You will have more hours than you had before. So, for example, something I do and I teach in the book is to have a weekly planning. Every Sunday, I go to my office and spend 20 minutes planning my week. What time I gonna train? What's gonna be my food? I have an important meeting. I have an important podcast that I need to prepare before. I have a big transport, a logistic that I need to plan. So I plan my week. Only for doing that, I have more times in my week. So it's a lot of small things, small habits, but when you put them together, you have much more hours. I think this is one of the biggest principles we teach in the book.
Yeah, and speaking of time management, you were scaling these high growth businesses. How did you balance that with also, managing family time? Because I know you're a dad.
I'm dad of four, and I also love surfing. I also love fighting Muay Thai, doing sports, and also the business. So I am very strict to my calendar, my agenda. I do plan things before, and I am very strict to it. What I do, I don't start work before 10 a.m. So I can sometimes wake up at 6 a.m., go to the gym or go surfing, 8 a.m. I'm back, spend time with my children, take breakfast with them, I drive them to school, and then I go to my office to start my day. So this is what I do. I strongly believe in quality time. So this is the quality time I have with my kids. And then I come back to the office and I stay until the time I need. But I also have some other habits. For example, I have the couples night with my wife. Once a week, we go out, only the both of us. It can be to a restaurant, it can be to a bar, it can be to anything. It doesn't matter. That doesn't need to be anything fancy, but this is our time. So she knows that the 4 days of the week I can be in the office until a time, but this time is her time, and I'm with her. So I like to do things like that, so I can balance or unbalance everything that I have.
That's awesome, right? But how do you, like, when you have some unexpected priorities come your way, how do you keep that discipline?
Uh, I follow the rules. First, health. First, your personal health. Second, family. And third, the work. So if you have this clear, you can change things, manage things. If I'm not good, I cannot be good to my family. So first, health. Without health, anything works. Second, family, and third, work. We cannot change priorities.
Yeah, sure. So this is amazing. That's really good, a lot of takeaways from that discussion. Also, you were recognized as the Entrepreneur of the Year by EY. And when was
Yes.
that? 2020?
2021.
21. Yeah. What did that mean for you?
It was amazing. It was a very big recognition from what we were doing in the Brazilian education. It was after a very hard time in the COVID, in
Mm.
the pandemics, that we almost got broke and everything else. And right after that, we got this recognition. So it was something amazing for my life, for my career. It was one of the biggest achievements I had in life. And this is one of the achievements you can't buy, that I
Yeah.
begin told you and we are
Yeah.
talking about. You can't buy being entrepreneur of the year.
Yeah.
You have to conquer it, and it's very hard to conquer it. So it was a very big moment in my life.
And Joseph, from the outside, you seem like an incredible entrepreneur, a lot of self-confidence going in and doing hard things. But then you mentioned when you were at Harvard, you had imposter syndrome. It seems like it's so counterintuitive because you come off as this, larger than life successful person. I want to know what you did to kind of overcome that?
Apart from having
I
that
think
drink.
a part of the drink, I believe every time I felt insecure, I have two options. Or I stop doing what I'm doing, and I think I'm not gonna make it, or I can work 10 times more for that. These are the times that I need to unbalance my life and focus really hard on something. So I believe the work solved it. Every time I feel very insecure about something, sometimes I fail, sometimes I accomplish something, but I never, even though when I fail, I never felt like I didn't put the work. And this is very good because you have the confidence that you tried and tried hard.
Yeah. Yeah. How important is continuous learning? And what are you doing right now for continuous learning?
Of course, the world is changing so fast that if we don't keep learning, we're gonna be behind. So the next big thing I'm doing about learning is that I'm going to China for a 10 days program to visit Chinese companies, to learn about technology, what they are doing about AI, about technology. For me, it will be a very nice experience to learn from them and then to apply in the business I have in Brazil. So this
Amazing.
is my
Yeah.
next big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Next big thing. Yeah.
And Joseph, you mentioned before, 6 million people, 6 million students that you've had come through Conquer. Do you ever look back and think about, the tremendous impact that you've had on building not only those people, but also, the ecosystem in Brazil?
Yeah, I had when I was in the business, I couldn't
Yeah.
have the idea of how big we were. How, of course, I went to, I don't know, an airport. There was something talking to me, to a shopping mall, something. Hi, I love Conquer, very nice, things like that. But I still didn't understand the impact of Conquer. But after I sold the business and not being the day by day anymore, I could see, oh my God, this is very big. This is huge. So today I can understand what I've accomplished in the Brazilian education.
And are there any success stories of your students who have gone on to build incredible businesses?
We have a lot of success stories. It's very common. I don't know how they find out my personal email, but it's very common to receive emails this big, their history, how it changed his life, and everything else. So very nice. We have a lot of histories. Most of them, when I start reading, I cry. I got emotional because I really like that. I think to work with education was a very big gift I had in life
Absolutely.
because we can have a business in with a lot of opportunities because education in Brazil is really bad. So there's a lot of market opportunities, a lot of purpose because with education you really can change people's lives, and good margins. It's a good business to
Mm-hmm.
have. So for me, it's the three things that I am most proud of, and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
works very well. I can see the time that my non-compete is not valid anymore, so I can work with education again.
Amazing. So Joseph, I want to go back to that 101 thing that you want to do before you die, and you mentioned you already completed around 37
37.
of them, 37 of them, and what are a few of them that you completed?
Well, I completed to have my graduation in Harvard with my parents. That's very, very nice. I completed to fight my time in Thailand. I completed to sold a business. I completed to help more than 100 entrepreneurs to grow their business. I do this voluntarily in Brazil. There's a lot of things that I've accomplished.
What are the other 63 that you haven't completed yet? A few.
Uh, there's a lot. There's a lot of familiar things that I need time to accomplish. One of them is very funny. Is to punch a corruption politic in the face.
Uh,
This will be very
and
nice. And there are, of course, some experiences like to have, I don't know, a beer in Belgium, to
Okay.
have, I don't know, there is a lot of experience things that I really would like to accomplish.
Do you have any saying visit Australia one day in your 100 one? Maybe
Not yet,
100
but
second one.
one of them is to surf in a very big coral reef. So
Oh
maybe
yeah,
this can happen in Australia.
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
I'm
I want to
only a
know
little
you.
afraid of the sharks in Australia.
Everything's trying to eat you here. Joseph, I want to know, now that you've achieved all this incredible, work, what are you putting your focus into now?
I think you can't let your past success, your history, be in front of your dreams. So
Mm.
what I think is important is to continue to having dreams. After sold the business, I thought to retire. I'm gonna change to Bahamas. I'm gonna retire. I don't need the money anymore. But after a week thinking about it, I could see it doesn't make sense. Make sense. We need to still have purpose. You need to add value to the people's lives. So this is what I'm thinking now. To keep building through entrepreneurship, keep changing people's lives, and to go after my dreams.
You mentioned about purpose. What exactly do you have a purpose in your life?
We I don't have a fixed purpose. Before Conquer was to change Brazilian education, was very
Mm.
strong
Mm.
inside of me, but I accomplished that. After that, when I was thinking about retire and things like that, I talked to a rabbi. I'm Jewish. I talked to a rabbi, and he said, "Hey, there's a mission that every Jewish need to have, and every person in the world is something in Hebrew called Tikkun Olam. Translating it is the art of solving the world, to improving the world. So I would say that this might, if I see something bad in the work and I could use my business skills to improve it, is something worth trying.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And Joseph, you mentioned, you're a father of four. What are the kind of lessons or values that you're trying to pass on to your next generation?
Ah, I think it's to have good values, respect people, to value the work. The work is something that builds a person. It shows who you are. Uh, I think in general that's it. I try to create children for the world, not to me. So I like to have them to have self independency, and I'm trying every day.
Would you encourage them to do a similar path that you taken? Go outside their comfort zone, maybe go to a slum.
I wouldn't encourage that, but if they really want to try it, I wouldn't say no. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
encourage them.
Yeah.
And Joseph, you mentioned that at Harvard, they were talking a lot about legacy. Have you ever thought about, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I think I'm building it every day in people's life, in every relation that I have. I try to keep something good from me to every person that I meet, to every business that I help. So I think this is some of the legacy I'm building.
Yeah, amazing.
And Joseph, this has been a fascinating conversation. And honestly, I
Thank you
could
very
talk to you
much.
for
Thank you. It's a
hours.
pleasure.
But before we wrap up, looking back on your journey, everything that you've built or you've accomplished, do you feel successful given that your definition was largely around accomplishing things that money can't buy?
Yes, I feel successful. There's a quote I have in my wall right here. It
All right.
says, "Success without time for the family is failure." This
Yeah.
first. So I believe today I have a very good time with my family. I can see my children's growing. I am helping a lot of business. I changing people's lives. So I would say I have success and I'm building a very nice legacy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Joseph. It's been fascinating. There's so many takeaways from your journey. A lot about confidence, sales, like going out there and just getting things done. But before we wrap up, I'd like to I've been trying to jot down what I think are some of the core traits that you represent, which have been part of your success. And I'd like to share them. The first one is definitely, we spoke about it early on, that drive and that hunger. Starting, from scratch, realizing you were in a place of privilege and going outside your comfort zone, going into, the favelas to, really learn that hunger and get it from scratch. And, even to when you were starting Conquer, going out dressed as an astronaut, just hungry, just trying to get those first sales, you live up to that. You are so hungry in every venture that you do. The next one is, you're quick to take action. And I think, in today's society, we're plagued by decision paralysis. People think, overthink, whereas you see a problem,
Sure.
you see a solution, and you take action and you go out and implement it. And I think that's, an incredible trait to have, because while everyone else is still thinking about the idea, you're getting in and executing. And, that's really what builds impact. And then the last one that I've got is agility. And you respond to challenging situations in such a positive light. COVID came along. Quick, guys, get the team on a call. Let's iterate, change, and respond really quickly. And I think having that agility, this world is not fixed, right? Everything's going to change all the time. So having that agility and ability to adapt, I think is so crucial.
Yeah, Joseph, thank you for sharing your story. What I realized, going through your journey, your curiosity, like, you're very, very curious. You if you don't know, you just don't walk away. You just wanted to explore and understand what's behind it. And you put a lot of hard work to it to learn and understand. So that curiosity, I think one of the key traits that you shown through your journey and led you success. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel really, really honored to have this discussion, because I mean, yes, we had several discussions during Harvard, but I never had the opportunity to learn your story, and I feel like I know you much better than before, and we have the privilege of sharing this story with everybody else as well. So thank you for taking time and talking to us.
Thank you for you both for the invitation. It was a very nice talking, and thank you also for the words.
And Joseph, if people want to find out more about what you're working on, or get in contact with you, what's the best place for them to reach out?
Instagram, I have this page. The content I'm making is in Portuguese, but I think they have the translation button right now that's working very well. So they can find me in Instagram, Josef R. Rubin.
Perfect. We'll put the link to that down in the show notes below. Joseph, thank you so much for your time. And for our listeners, if you've gotten something out of today's episode, it would mean the world if you can like and subscribe. It helps us to get to more and more ears. And you can see all of our episodes over on our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.